the minuscules, as I said before, are slightly different. I really struggled to develop a monoline construct for the minuscules. And you know, when I teach, I always start with a monoline construct because I feel that understanding where that center line is, is really important, because then you flesh out, you add the musculature and the skin to the letters. And if you don't know where that middle line is, so if you're writing with a broad edge nib, you have two tines and you have an ink slit between the two tines, and you kind of have to line up that ink slit to this monoline shape. So you know that the tines need to be on either side of that shape. Now, when you come to doing things like copperplate script or italic, it's a little bit easier. But with something like Textualis, where the script is so regimented and it's very separate in its movements, writing something a little bit smoother tends to become a bit of a problem. So I tried a few variations on how to generate this monoline construct, and I came up with a few possible options. Now, I found that as I'm writing it, some of the options will creep in and others will disappear and they'll come back. But for the most part, it's really about being able to understand that vertical, the 45 and the 30, and being able to write those shapes easily, consistently, continuously, so that you have this repeatable shape, or rather these repeatable shapes which generate your letters. It's not a fast script. It's very slow, it's very methodical. You really have to take your time with it. I feel it's probably one of the best scripts to learn in tandem with a meditative study, because it really forces you to slow down, because of course it is also a sacred script used to write lots of Bibles in the medieval period. So let's look at the letters. Now, some of the things you probably noticed is I would go 1, 2, 3, up, down. So I would simulate a quadrant and then a short downstroke and then a quadrant. But in order to represent what happens with a lozenge, I have to make a little line and then come down. This is something I don't do when I'm writing my geometric textualis because it's just quadrant. Let's say I'm writing an M. I would write quadrant, downstroke, quadrant, lozenge, downstroke, quadrant, lozenge, downstroke, quadrant. I would not do quadrant, downstroke, quadrant, little line, quadrant, downstroke, quadrant. Now, this is one of the features of historical textualis. I don't include it in my geometric textualis because I find that if you add that little line, most people don't know where to put the quadrant on that little line. And that little line is really variable. By learning the geometric textualis, you understand that you have a quadrant, a lozenge, and a lozenge at the top. You have more consistency in the way that you write. Now, once you become comfortable with this principle and this system, it's a lot easier to then go, oh, if I add a little line and use a quadrant, I know exactly where that line is going to go. There's no guessing. But starting off with the little line ensures that there is a little bit too much guessing to my mind, and then the script starts to become a little bit erratic. So I also call these quadrants lozenges or downstrokes. I never ever call the quadrant a diamond, because if you're doing some Arabic calligraphy uses diamonds as their standardizing structure for how they measure the heights of the alphabet of their letters, and that's a much steeper and sharper quadrilateral than a quadrant is. Now, a lozenge is a flatter version of a diamond, but they are three different shapes, and this is why I use quadrants, lozenges, and downstrokes.